I think Braziers has mainly educated me by teaching me how different other people are from me, and that, in a sense, all of us live in our own individual world, and that the things which are important to other people, the things which shape other people's worlds, which appear crucial to them, are really different from the things that shape mine. And I always kind of knew that intellectually, but until I'd lived it here, I don't think I truly knew it. And I guess it has changed me in the sense that now, if I'm working with a group or working with other people, I consider much more that what makes perfect sense to me may make no sense at all to them, and yet we may both be right in different senses or even the same sense. So I guess it's taught me something about the complexity of humanity and human interactions.
I wish I could say something equally concise and informative. Have to be brief anyway. Toward the end of a long life, you see all sorts more clearly all factors that have shaped you, and certainly this very long association with Braziers has shaped me in innumerable ways. Quite a large proportion of the significant relationships that I've had in my life have been either directly or indirectly connected with Braziers. At the same time, I have only rarely had the whole in the community experience. Just the very first time I was here for 3 or 4 months or so, I was actually a resident in the house. So it's been a complex pattern since. That I've always been somewhat close to the place, sometimes extremely close, and spent more than 40 years living with my dear partner Honor in one of the Braziers cottages, that is Witchlow Cottage. Oh yes, I'm just in view of recent experience. I'm just tempted to mention a factor which, happily, to the limited best of my knowledge, has only fairly rarely raised its head actually in the Braziers community, is the mental health aspect. But it's one of the reasons for everybody to feel very tender and cautious toward other people, since we've had at least one promising sort of relation to Braziers, in my knowledge, a sort of person who's become a friend of mine for the time since, but who had a complex history quite outside Braziers, but happened to have her first breakdown a few months after leaving Braziers. Though such very important things as the death of her mother had intervened. So it's just it's another version of the encouragement to love one another, perhaps.
Thanks. Something happened this weekend, which was a moment I really appreciated, and it was when we're going to start doing a guided meditation around the campsite or the campfire, and I said, okay, let's make a circle. And when we started making the circle, there's kind of some people on the inside of it and some people on the outside because there's a lot of people. And I noticed that everyone who lived at Braziers looked around and then took 2 steps back. And I think what it really teaches you is adaptation and accommodation through empathy, or not through empathy, but I guess using empathy, because you're constantly surrounded by other people. You're constantly acknowledging their wants and needs, and to be able to adapt to that, I think, is incredibly important. And I think that's the main thing I learned is, living with other people, and yeah.
I'd just say that was a really beautiful way of putting it. Made me quite tender-hearted.
I very much echo what Mary was saying, because I haven't lived here, but I have spent quite a lot of time here. I did volunteer for a while, one summer. I think my more recent experience, there's obviously the immediate things in wider community weekends, like I think the singing workshop was absolutely fantastic, and I have been singing better since then. So that's on a very superficial level. But it was absolutely great, and the project management, so practical things in that sort of line of education, but the general awareness of the depths and complexities of people's lives. I've used the analogy of an iceberg and something else recently. It's a little bit like that. You see a tiny aspect of what's going on in people's lives, and then, if you bump into the iceberg below the surface, my God, you feel it. So, careful navigation, I think, is what I'm learning.
I feel I should pass, but so as not to slow down the meeting, but I would like to say this weekend I was quite... I'm going to say something anyway. I would like to say this week, being here, just realised how much work everybody's doing, and this is quite, for me, I've been to a few different communities and stuff. This is a very outward-looking community, and I really think there's a lot of energy put into looking outwards as well as inwards, which I think is very positive, I've learned since I've been here.
There's a lot going on in my head, but I don't know whether I can put it in the right words. I like the fact that I learn things all the time here. I was a teacher. I've been a teacher for 25 years, and people learn from me. And now I'm so happy to be able to learn myself. I learn things all the time. New words, just because this is a foreign language for me. So I'm happy to learn new words. I learned how to cook for more than 2 people, and I learned how to set a mouse trap and to bake bread, and it's just, I suck it all in, and it feels so good. So I'm not an intellectual, I'm a more practical person. I like the practical part of it. This. Yeah. There's more, but I can't, it doesn't come out.
I'm going to try and start, I'll try and be concise. I don't know how concise I'll be. But I'm going to try and start with really practical things. So I'll maybe just try and list them. So I've learned to cook for more than 20 people. The most I cooked for was 100 once. So, wow, that's quite a skill to learn. What else? Facilitation, group dynamics, management, how to... God, it all goes out of your head the second you have the microphone, doesn't it? Appreciation, how to share appreciation, how to be a bridge. That's not very practical now. I'm going all over the place, whatever. That's how it flows. how to listen, how to put yourself aside. That's a really amazing one. How to just open your world up, basically. How to share your being with other beings. Sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional now. I'm very conscious that this is my last few months here now, and hearing all these wonderful things makes me quite emotional. I'm just going to pass.
Right. I don't think so. I'm going to stop crying as well. Right. So I think to do practical things I've learned since I've been here. I've only been here a few days, and I think the round, maybe an obvious one to everyone here, but the round seems like a very good facilitation system that I will take on into my teaching. I teach at an art school. I think I'll try to employ this round method. I think that'd be good because our conversations are quite stilted at art school. And I've learnt a lot of things already. I've learnt how to shovel manure.
Yes.
How to pick rhubarb. And I think, hang on, I was trying to be more serious. I think, I can see that there's an emphasis on self-learning, which is very good. And then sort of empowering people. That's very good. And how much easier it is to learn things in a casual way of a group of people, practical things like cooking, cleaning up, etc.
Right. Oh God. Oh goodness. Wow. Braziers has shaped so much of my life that it's a bit hard to say what I've learnt from Braziers. It's like saying, what have I learnt from my life? A lot of what people have said is very much Braziers. I'd bring in the corny phrase, unlike minds, which we often talk about. Really knowing people that I would never, ever have known, like really knowing somebody like Morris, who is like so completely different, whose hobbies are military games of soldiers and things like that, and just really knowing him really well, which was marvellous. I mean, I'd never have got that if I hadn't been in Braziers. And the whole thing about, people being completely different and their focus being completely different, and how wonderfully... it's not belittling, but you do realise you're not the centre of the universe. I quite often have to laugh at how completely unimportant what I'm fussing about is to anybody else. I mean, I've learnt uncomfortable things as well, like the power of scapegoating and how very useful it is to the people who are scapegoating. I've been on both sides of that. Probably I've done more scapegoating than being a focus of it. Group management, group reading, understanding what's happening in groups. Yeah, Duncan, when you said that, I recognised what you were saying. I always remember Pauline lived here for a while, and she said when she went to a meeting in the next place she lived, there was this really big, complicated meeting. And she said to me, it was a doddle. I couldn't believe how easy it was. She hadn't realised just how much she'd learnt about groups until she went somewhere else. So I'd say absolutely learning about group process. None of this is... Braziers learning kind of comes out sideways. I don't... To my mind, nothing that we've tried to do has ever exactly worked, but the learning happens anyway.
Do you want to minute that, or do you want me to go?
I can't be bothered.
I think the most important thing that I first learned here was that there is another form of living that, besides the form that I accepted as the only option or the only possible way of living, which was kind of this individual first, capitalistic, that's a word, where ownership and money are all necessary things. Like I need to own my room, and I need to strive towards increasing my economic position, and understanding that no, I don't need to be a part of this system that I was raised in. It's constantly trying to make myself expand and be more and have power and safety, and all for myself individually or for my family. And the second most important thing that I first learned here was that I think what I want to say is secular ethics. I mean, obviously I say this so much, but I was raised where everything I did was right or wrong because of some God that told me to do it. And not the only reason, but the main reason that I worked towards unifying people in Christ was because that was a divine law. And here at Braziers, we have no God telling us what to do, and yet it makes sense to choose to put the group and the world and the earth, at least we can say it, that is something we just choose to do, and for no other reason than what I say is integration, for no other reason than to strive for a win-win situation for us and everyone else, rather than because God will bless us at the last day, or will not be punished, or whatever, all these other reasons that are used to motivate the rest of the world, or at least in the religious sense. And so those are the two things.
Could I add a couple things? Thank you. Just the list came a little bit more. Patience, really big one. How to talk to trees. The names of plants, and the names of trees in particular. Permaculture, German. Yep, that's all I'm going to add for now.
Yeah. I never knew anything about trees till I came here. I just thought they sort of grew. And then it was pointed out to me that actually this isn't the primeval forest. The trees are there because someone planted them. Oh, right. And that completely changed my understanding of the landscape, just that one sort of simple insight, which I might never have arrived at on my own because I don't really think about things like trees. Anyway,